Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the third video in this 10-part mini-series. Now, up to now, we have gone through how to set up your macros and we've cleared up some of the biggest nutritional myths that surround the idea and the concept of flexible dieting. So now what I want to do in today's video is basically teach you how you should be tracking your food intake. So before we go into the whole diet aspect of how you actually build your diet, the foods that you can consume and stuff like that, it's important that we know how to be able to track our food intake to align alongside our macros. So that's what we're going to go over in today's video. So guys, the very first thing that you need to do then is you need to be able to track your food intake in some way or form. And the easiest way of doing that is just simply by downloading a food tracking app on your mobile phone. Seeing as we spend pretty much the entirety of our day on our mobile phones, it just makes more sense to be able to use a food tracking app to keep a log of all the things that you're eating on a daily basis. Now, there are loads of different food tracking apps out there available for you to use, but the most commonly used one and the one that I find is the most simple to use is, of course, MyFitnessPal. A lot of you guys would have probably heard of MyFitnessPal, maybe used it in the past, but it is the most simple one to use and it's the most popular for a reason. Now, when it comes to actually using MyFitnessPal then, so on the actual app itself, it has like a mobile food diary that of course you add all your food into. And typically it's broken down into breakfast, lunch, dinner, and maybe a couple of snacks. That's how it's preset. You can of course obviously add in your own extra snacks and stuff. You can rename each meal and things like that. But obviously those are the customizable features that you can do on the app. But we'll kind of keep it simple and just skim over the relevant information that you need to know. So when you want to enter in the food that you are consuming into your food diary then, under each label of your food diary, you'll see an option which says add food. Once you go on there, you've then got two different options in which you can actually enter the food that you are consuming into your food diary, which we're going to go over here. So the first one then, of course, is you can either use the barcode scanner or you can use the manual search. The barcode scanner is the easiest one and the most accurate one. Simply all you do is that you use your phone's camera, place it over the top of the barcode of the food that you're consuming, and your camera should pick that up automatically and it should be able to pull the relevant food and nutritional data from that and put it straight into your food diary. That's the most simple concept for you to use. The second option though, however, if you are consuming a type of food that does not have like a barcode or something, like if you've made like a set meal, let's say for example, or if you are at a restaurant, which we're going to cover in a different video, then you might have to use the manual search. So with that, of course, after you've pressed the add food button under each label, instead of pressing the little barcode scanner, you'll go to the search bar to the right of it, or to the left. I can't remember which side it is. It's one of them. So you'll go to that side, you'll click on the search option. Now, on the search option, you'll then just type in the food or whatever that you want to use, whatever it may be. Click search, press enter, and you'll obviously have a load of different entries come up for the certain type of food that you are obviously wanting to put into your food diary. Now, a key tip for me when it comes to entering food into your food diary is whatever food that you have entered, if you can, always go for the verified options, like I've just mentioned there. The verified options are the ones that have been verified by MyFitnessPal and their database for being completely accurate. So if it has been verified, it should have a little green tick next to its name. So if that's the food that you have entered and that's the one that you searched, look out for the green arrow or the green tick. Click that and enter that into your food diary because that is going to be the completely accurate nutritional information. Now, occasionally what you'll find is that with some foods that you actually search, you will find that some foods don't have a verified option, which can happen all the time. Not all of them do. That may happen. So if that's the case, what I recommend you do is you go through all of the search entries, click on each one, have a look at the nutritional information and try and match it as best as you can to the information that you know is correct. So you might pull the nutritional data for certain foods like online, or you might have it on like the back of a packet, let's say, if the barcode hasn't worked for whatever reason. Find an entry with the macros or the nutritional information that are as close to the real values as possible and put that into your food diary. So that, guys, is how you cover tracking in MyFitnessPal and picking the food options that you want to consume. So guys, the next thing that I want to go over then is the different type of tracking strategies that you can implement into your daily lifestyle. Now, what I'm about to say here very much depends on your experience levels. There are going to be people watching this video who have probably tracked macros in the past before. They can do it off the back of their hand, it's that easy to them. And I'm also going to have people watching this video who have never ever tracked a macro in their life and they're probably sat here thinking, what the fuck is MyFitnessPal? What the fuck are macros? what's going on, I feel overwhelmed, life's a mess, and all that crap, okay? There are going to be different types of people watching this video, so what I'm about to say applies to different people, and we'll go through it in a little bit more context, okay? So the first thing I want to bring up then is, if you are a brand new person to tracking macros, if you have never ever tracked macros in your life before, you've never even touched MyFitnessPal, this first point is going to be for you. The first thing I think that you should focus on if you are a brand new person is just trying to hit your calorie intake and your protein intake, and not necessarily worry about carbs and fats. And here's why. So if you've watched the first video, you of course would have seen that, body composition very much comes down to your calorie intake. Being in a calorie surplus will help you to build muscle and gain weight. Being in a calorie deficit will help you to lose weight. Simple as that. So calories are very much king, which means that your priority should always be your calorie intake first and foremost. So that's one thing that you will definitely focus on, even if you are a beginner, making sure you're getting enough calories into your system to support the goal in which you desire. The second point, of course, is your protein intake. Again, this one very much depends on what your goal is. Something I mentioned in the first video as well was, of course, depending on what your protein intake is very much going to help shape what your goal is. So if your goal is to build muscle, of course, you want a slightly higher protein intake. And even if you want to lose weight, you still got to maintain a certain amount of protein in your diet to help preserve muscle mass, especially while you're in a calorie deficit. So that's why those two things are really, really important. Calories are, of course, what's going to help change your body composition. Your protein intake very much depends on whether you're going to help to maintain muscle or whether you want to build muscle, depending on what your goal is. But for a newbie, you can pretty much just focus on those two things and you won't have to worry. Your carb and fat intakes can be a little bit all over the place to start with. All you really have to focus on is just making sure you're in and around your calorie intake target. Providing you get enough protein in, you are still going to get very, very good results. Now, if you are probably a little bit more experienced with tracking macros and you've done this for a little bit of a while, then you might want to consider going a little bit more advanced and tracking calories, protein, carbs, and fats very closely. So obviously, once you've had your set macros from the first video, whatever, you can then input them into MyFitnessPal and you can try and track as close to them as possible. Now, in the long run, this is more beneficial. Reason for that, of course, is something I have mentioned previously in some of my other content is, when your carb and fat intakes are all over the place, you'll find that your water weight and your water fluctuation will be all over the place, which can be a little bit of a distraction when it comes to tracking your scale weight and tracking your progression, especially in a fat loss phase. So in the long run, you'll want to try and keep your carb and fat intakes consistent to stop your water weight from fluctuating too much and affecting your scale weight. But these are very, very minor details. For a beginner, you're still going to get pretty much the same results, providing that you are, of course, in a calorie deficit or in a calorie surplus, and you are making sure that you are hitting either calories and protein as well, okay? But those cover the two tracking options depending on your experience level, guys. In the next point, we're going to go over different tracking strategies for you to do on a daily basis, depending on the type of person that you are. Alright then, guys, so the final point we're going to go over in this video then is, how exactly are you going to go about tracking your food intake on a daily basis? And we're going to go over the two main things that you can do. You can either pre-log your meals in the morning, or you can just track each meal as you go along on a daily basis. And I'm going to go over the pros and cons of both. Now, we'll start off with pre-logging meals. And what I mean by that is, you'll get up in the morning or you'll do it the night before, and you will literally plan out your entire meal prep for that day. So you'll fill out your food diary for that day on MyFitnessPal. And it's just going to be complete of all the meals that you plan to have, making sure that you hit your macro targets and your calorie intake target. Most people decide to do this either late at night, the night before, or in the morning before they actually start eating and stuff. Now, the advantage of this, of course, is just making sure that once you've planned everything out, you know that you're definitely going to eat all of those meals and hit your macro targets and hit your calorie intake target, which means that you're going to be consistently hitting your targets. If you can do that over a long course of period of time, of course, you're going to get the results that you wish. The downside to this, of course, is that there is no flexibility to it. Now, something that I have brought up in the past before is, life can throw unexpected curveballs at you. So you might find that you might plan your meals around your day. So whether it depends on your working situation, whether it's your day off, working, looking after family, whatever it may be. you might find a curveball, and it means that you might not be able to eat a certain meal at a certain time because your plans have suddenly changed. And that's the problem when you pre-log meals a tiny bit. It doesn't account for flexibility and it's pretty rigid. However, on the flip side, you've then also got pre-log after each meal. Logging after each meal in a sense is, you'll just eat each meal as you go along and then just log it in your phone afterwards. This one is better for those of you who have, very busy lifestyles with days that can just literally be all over the place. If you haven't really got a solid schedule, this might be better for you because you might have to eat depending on what your current situation is on that day. And if you can't really plan for it, let's say if you have to actually eat out quite a lot and stuff like that, if you have to rely on meal deals and eating out other places, logging after each meal is probably going to be better for you because simply for the fact is, your life's a little bit all over the place, so you can't really plan for these things properly. I'd probably say that logging after each meal is best for intermediate and more advanced people and for those kind of people who are probably, who have got like a very busy lifestyle. So for me, for example, of course I set out my days and I try and plan them out, but inevitably there'll always be those things that kind of throw up a curveball, and it means that my meals are a little bit all over the shop. So I tend to log after each meal just because it's a little bit easier for me to do because of my busy lifestyle. Pre-logging, I think, is definitely better for beginners and for those of you who have more of a solid lifestyle structure in place. So that covers those 2 points, I think. Pre-logging is best for beginners and those with a more solid lifestyle. And logging after each meal is probably better for intermediates or those following a more flexible lifestyle and flexible diet. And for those of them who have a very busy lifestyle, who can't really commit to a proper schedule and stuff. But that, guys, that covers today's video then. So go back through the video, make sure you're taking all the points and doing all the things necessary which I've spoken about. I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video in this series. Have a good day. I'll catch you guys soon. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, the usual stuff. Have a good day.